What's up, everyone? Today we are interviewing Alan Staple from the Staple Crew YouTube channel. He's a big favorite in this whole community. We've had amazing conversations off camera. This one we got on camera. I hope you enjoy. The majority of the people in my audience do actually know who you are, but I think it might be helpful for what we're going to talk about in this conversation, just to know the your background and then the events leading up to that first video that I recognized you, where you were walking, it looked like a vineyard, and you were walking, telling us or telling the audience that your friend had told you something, and it seemed to have triggered something in you that was quite exciting, even though you might have known about XRP before and on all of that stuff.
Okay, what really happened? The one in the vineyard, I had just gotten off the one without the hat on.
Yes.
I believe you're talking about. Yeah. I was driving down the road, and I've asked us so many questions. I had this connection to Goldman Sachs, and he ended up calling me out of the blue, and it's usually I'm bothering him, and he's like, "Alan," and I'm like, "Yeah, we need to talk." And I said, "Well, okay, let me pull over the side of the road here." And it was an hour and a half long conversation about basically, you've been right all along. I've been incorrect. This is happening. Holy smokes, it's bigger than ISO 222. It's the brokerages are getting in, and they're getting in big. And I didn't know it, but they were already in. And they had been planning this since basically that he could figure out since 2018. And I thought it was so interesting because he was asked to be part of that branch of Goldman Sachs.
Mm.
And he's really limited in his knowledge of cryptocurrency and the networks and the blockchain and any of it. Like what little bit he really knows, he's kind of learned from me over the past year and our relationship. So when he was so excited, I got excited because I thought it was imminent. I thought, oh my God, here it goes. It's just going to pop because these guys are getting in. But yeah, I was somewhat disappointed because it didn't happen that way. But on the other hand, I see it happening right now.
Mm.
And the two conversations he and I have had since have been amazing. Like he's given me the big picture in which I share with everybody as best I can on my channel. But I can't name too many names or anything like that. But he's got, I don't know if you guys heard the news just the other day, but I mentioned this on my show probably 4 or 5 months ago that Citadel would be involved. And Citadel is a large company. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but Ken Griffin's a big player in the bond world. And that's kind of the people I knew for the longest time before I met the Goldman Sachs guys was the bond players. I knew bankers and bond men. And the bond people I knew were market makers. And probably a year ago, I came out with a video talking about a market maker that I knew personally. And he told me that Ripple was calling him and coming to his office to meet. And I thought, wow, Ripple's going to be involved in bonds. Like, how does that work? And he goes, I don't know. He didn't even know what Ripple was. And since then, it's been a little bit difficult for me because the man he's taken ill. And so that's kind of sad, his story. But I know his two sons pretty well. And I know how I knew about what was happening with King Griffin is because Citadel bought this man's market making book that he had owned and run for 4 years. So now his two sons work for Citadel. So it was kind of my in, And
Well, there's also sometimes those unaware information, when people are unaware and they give information, those are the best ones because
It
it gives
is.
you the satisfaction of being able to connect dots in your head. And
Right.
also know there's a little bit of there's a little bit of ego in it for me. I can't speak for you, of course,
Yeah.
but I've heard these conversations in banks, and they're talking about, like, let's say the ISO standard. They don't necessarily know that what that means or what it is or what the codes of these messages are. But when they mention these things happening, I'm like, I know more than you, and
Right.
and
Yeah.
you work in that area. It's just
Yeah.
nice.
It's and it's all a big puzzle, right? And you and I are standing around where we're in this puzzle every single day, and you're looking for that one piece, and it just comes out of nowhere, like you just said, like somebody just said something in passing, or somebody important actually will tell you. What's really been great is I've been able to ask these people questions like, "What's the network building next?" They don't really know because we know how complex corporations are now. That's like that branch doesn't know anything about this branch. They're more in sales. They don't really know what, they're coding in the background. So that's been frustrating for me. But I do everything that they told me was going to happen is happening and faster than I ever thought it would. Like, I don't know how long you've been in crypto, but I started buying it in 2016. And what happened for me was today's events and our news of every day today that we have, like BlackRock getting in and, all these different massive companies. Fidelity is now buying Grayscale. I don't know if you heard that.
Mhm.
And Grayscale's in that lawsuit over there, ETF. I knew about this stuff coming in my head, right? Because I could project what network growth would look like 5 years from now, right? Because I saw, I saw the dot-com bubble. I've seen so many things. I was a stockbroker all the way back in the late mid '80s. So, like, I look for waves and I look for the next move. And I got involved with G3 phone networks, right? Like that's dinosaur stuff now. But I remember when nobody had it. I remember voice over internet being, oh my God, we're actually going to be able to not just text. So I've seen these patterns so many times in the past. And when I really dove deeply into crypto, I was like, oh, there he is. That's the one.
So
And
what does the next 5 years look like to you from that perspective then?
this is this is where the goosebumps come in, right? I mean, we're finally there. I really believe we're close, if you're going to give me 5 years, I'm going to say you're there. Because when you build out systems the way it's been built out, and you and we've seen the paperwork of what RippleNet's done and the way they're structured and the banking systems. We know that's happened. It's already happened. So when I hear people ask me about such things, the thing that comes to mind is when dot-com bubble happened, two or three people became billionaires. And then when the internet really built out, nobody really got wealthy from the internet, which was odd to me. I thought, it's in everybody's hand. And how come nobody really prospered, the way it should have? Obviously, the phone providers and network providers did well. But what I see for the next 5 years is it's going to create more millionaires and billionaires than ever in history because it's not just Jeff Bezos getting wealthy, right? Or, Elon Musk at the top. There's so many people like you and I that we own these networks. You don't you don't own a share in stock that they can manipulate. You own a chunk of the company. When you own XRP, you own the company. You own the product. You own it all. And you're going to share in these wealths that In my opinion, it's massive. And I know a lot of people think, oh, well, gosh, if it would go to 1,000. No, no, no. This thing, XRP goes to $15 to $25. The amount of millionaires that it's going to create is going to be massive. I mean, in quantity. So that's what I really see over the next 5 years is how many millionaires and billionaires there's. Let's stop and think about that. I remember reading a Wall Street Journal article, uh, and it was talking about the founders of Ripple being the wealthiest. This is in 2017, that bull run, being the wealthiest men in the world. If
Mhm.
Ripple, if XRP went to $5, it stopped at whatever it was, $3. But if it had gone to $5, they'd be the wealthiest man in the world. And when you say, well, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, here's what it means. Instead of Elon Musk or whoever, right? Bezos, like I just mentioned, is the wealthiest man in the world. A person who owns crypto is the wealthiest man in the world. You see how that changes the mindset of kids growing up wanting to be, oh, I want to create Microsoft or I want to create, whatever it be. No, I just need to get involved in crypto to be the wealthiest man in the world. What does that do to the power structure of the elite? All of a sudden you have all these new players and it's a quantity of new players, not just Jeff, and Elon. They can contain two or three of these people that may have a free thinking or a new thought or wanting to change the planet in whatever manner which they hope to do, right? But how are they going to contain thousands of millions? They're going to have voting privilege. They're going to change the face of the planet. And I don't say this lightly. Crypto is bigger than the internet. And I'm now starting to understand that more than ever. And 5 years ago, I look at how far we've come now. So 5 years from this point forward, you combine it with the AI and and the rest of it. We're absolutely at the brink of expansion, monetarily, mentally, and the rest of
So I want to. I've often had that thought because
it. Answer the question.
I've run the calculations on the amount of people that would become millionaires as a result of a move that's not even that significant in the scheme of things. But I did the numbers, and it increase the millionaires list by 0.03% or something. So
Really,
yeah, it's a lot of people.
it is.
The
Yeah.
scheme of things, I was trying to determine whether it was reasonable for the government to care or not. And my conclusion was that a 0.03% increase in millionaires wasn't that important. And so that was my conclusion. That's just based on my own feeling. But I've also long thought about how the top 10 in the world richest people is basically just going to be like looking at the Ripple board of directors list. It's just going to be
Yeah.
Ripple from the top in the top 10. Garlinghouse,
Yeah.
Schwartz, Larson, they're all just going to be in the top 10. Then you'll have Elon and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
My question more like from that thought process is, what does money even mean after that point? Like, if there's so many billionaires and so many millionaires and billionaires are made just from holding these assets, does a burger now cost $100? Like, there has to be. I always feel like there has to be a natural distribution of wealth that naturally occurs for the balance of humanity. We all would like everyone to have money, but if everyone has money, no one has money. It's just all. There has to be a balance, and so I think, and it's just. I'd love to know your thoughts. I think that there's a natural percentage of people at the top, a natural percentage of people at the bottom, and then a spectrum in the middle. I would think that naturally that would just reoccur, that percentage.
Yes. Yeah.
because the base organism in it all is us, and we are quite predictable in the way we act and the way we distribute. So if there are so many millionaires made from this, new millionaires, you would also have to say that there would be an equal amount or proportional amount of people who lose their money in this change, or are worse off to fit the equilibrium. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
What do you think?
I have a, there's two answers there for me that are really clear. First of all, I don't see inflation the same way everybody else does. And that's an hour-long show for me.
Okay.
um, there's there's another angle to this that's massive as well. That's another hour long. But there's this derivatives market in which they've created this quadrillion-dollar market. We'll just use that. And it's been my opinion for a very long time that this is a wager placed upon a wager, placed upon a wager, which is built on another wager. And it's just gotten completely out of control. And I do believe there are people at the top that are trying to find a way to get it off a paper napkin, if you will, or out of the ether and bring it to something real. And when you monetize that value, I don't think your statement of there will be losers, I don't think that will occur, because they're going to funnel all of that into what I'm going to call a token or a coin that could bring a physicality to all of those digits, if you will. So they have an avenue. Do you know who Intercontinental Exchange is? ICE.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They've been working on this since 18 that I know of, and I did a bunch of shows about them a long time ago. I really think that's what they're trying to achieve here with BlackRock and other partners. They're trying to find a way to tokenize all of that debt. Okay. And I think it will. I think this perfect thing came along, which is, well, we can make a quadrillion of these coins. And so that's the latter half of your question. The first half of the question is, I don't see inflation the same way as a lot of people, because one of the things that most, I know you understand, and most of our listeners do, because they're a pretty sharp, hard crowd,
Yep.
uh, that there are the 13 families, we'll say, who essentially control all central banking, but we'll just go with the Federal Reserve for this moment. And everybody says, well, we can no longer print all this money and create all this debt because, we have to pay all this interest. Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand is, who do we pay it to? Well, we pay it to supposedly that family, those families. Well, do they care? Are they asking for their money? No. So the debt burden really is not the debt burden that most people perceive it to be, this hanging, black cloud that's going to crush everything in the world. Because all of that interest that we owe them, the 34 trillion or whatever it is today in the US, they're not asking for it tomorrow. In fact, I could honestly say that could be a rebellion to where everybody on the planet would just say, I don't care who those people are, we're not paying it. Number one. But number two, if you look at the data that's come out, I just heard a great explanation of it not long ago, but it was something that was in my head for a long time, out by a man by the name of Raoul Pong, if you know who he is.
Mhm.
And he did a brilliant presentation on this, and I really got a lot from it. But he essentially said what they've been doing, if you look at what they printed recently, they've printed the payments. So the payments aren't coming necessarily out of our GDP. And how long can they make that Ponzi scheme happen? Pretty much forever.
Hmm.
If your interest rates are just, if your Federal Reserve is willing to accept more debt, remember, they didn't have any debt before 2020. And now they're up to whatever it is, 9 trillion. And they're willing to accept debt into 90 trillion. Well, that tells you that we can go 10 times larger digits than we are currently today. And everyone says, oh, well, Alan, that's really not going to be good for the middle class and low class because those numbers are just going to increase. Well, no, because what they're doing right now with raising interest rates is they're eliminating a lot of that debt in the market. Wars create debt and recessions eliminate debt, inflationary debt. On very broad strokes there.
That's a super interesting way to look at it, actually.
Yeah.
I've never considered that. As we all know, security is crucial in the world of digital currencies. And I've got something to share with you that can help protect your online presence from potential threats. This video is sponsored by NordVPN, an amazing cybersecurity tool that helps protect your online connection and privacy online. To get an exclusive deal from NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/Lulu. Now let's talk about a common threat that you'll find in crypto. It's something called man-in-the-middle attacks. And these attacks happen when somebody intercepts your data and your connection to the internet. And this can be on public Wi-Fi or other vulnerable connections. For example, you might be checking your crypto portfolio on a public Wi-Fi. And without knowing it, a hacker could be stealing your passwords. And that's where NordVPN comes in. They have top-notch encryption, they secure your internet traffic, and so if somebody does try to intercept your connection, all they'll see from the data is gibberish. Plus, NordVPN has a feature called threat protection, and that keeps you safe from malware and other online dangers. Do not let hackers steal your crypto assets or your information. NordVPN now by clicking the link in the description, or again, visit nordvpn.com/Lulu. What's really good is that there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's actually no risk at all, and see how it can enhance your online safety. And what's even better than that is that they're going to give you 4 months extra when you buy a 2-year plan. So remember, your online security is in your hands, so go to nordvpn.com/Lulu and get yourself protected. Back to the video.
Right.
That's very interesting.
Because you and I, and this is why, right? And I love everybody. Trust me, I've been in sound money for 20 years. I started buying silver contracts in the 80s. And I love silver and I own silver. And I think it's a wise and prudent investment. It's an insurance policy. I personally would place more money in XRP, but that's me, right? And so one of the things that if you understand that the way you and I look at value, it's not the way the elite look at value.
Yeah.
It's a different ballgame they play. They look at debt as value. And you and I look at a paper bill or a piece of gold. When we borrow something, you and I have to get pieces of paper or the legitimate digits, we'll call them, and we have to pay that back. They've never had to do that. They just create more. Well, when you and I buy a phone or spend our credit card, you're creating digits like they do out of nothing. MasterCard doesn't, have a bank vault. When you spend $50 on a pair of shoes or whatever, it doesn't come out of their vault. You've created that debt at that moment. That money never existed until then. So whether or not you pay it back is not important to them, believe it or not. That's why they write off all these, oh, that was a fraud. Okay, they just write it off. But you and I value money differently because we think that you and I have to work ourselves to the bone, which we do, to pay our debt back. So it's a different concept that they have than you and I.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I understand what you said when you said it was an hour-long conversation or
Yeah.
hour-long talk. I understand that. So I know we've talked about the coming 5 years. Let's zoom in a little bit closer to basically what's happened in recent events. We were going to talk I think that we were going to talk the day of the Hinman emails, or maybe the day before, or something like that.
Like day, I know. I think you're right. Day before.
Yeah. We didn't that didn't happen in the end, but now that we've seen the emails come out, and how close you are with the law, I mean, literally as with your wife there as well. Um, what's been the overall perception of these emails in your household?
I don't want to diminish them in any way, but a big giant nothing burger, to be honest. Um, no, that's not accurate. There was a lot learned there about the corruption that essentially my wife and I already knew existed.
Yeah,
Yeah. So in that sense, um, I,
it
there's,
should be called a nothing new burger.
yes, or put it on top of the giant pile of information of
Yeah,
corruption that we already knew.
yeah,
Yeah. It's one more piece of straw, and I don't know which one will be the last
yeah.
that breaks the family, but there will be one day. Um,
Was it? I don't know if it was just me, and I'm not coming from a legal background of any sort, and I'm not even in your, you know, in the US where like I shouldn't even be worrying about US,
no, you should.
but here I am, somewhat knowledgeable about this area. It seems to me um, that the SEC is less corrupt as an entity than I thought or than I had imagined, but Bill Hinman acted out of personal interest in a way that could have been a corruption. Because it seemed like there was some pushback on the emails for him to make it vague or however whatever they were trying to do. And he deliberately chose not to. And I think he did that out of personal interest and family interest in Ethereum. And, there's lots of things that come out recently about all of that. It just seemed like it's more his problem than the SEC's problem.
I would agree with that completely. And if I could add to that, I think a perception that a lot of people didn't get that I got, Elizabeth and I talked about quite at length, was I don't think people understand the blessing that he was. He, the fact that he did what he did is a feather in our cap. It's not. I know it was a bit of almost a criminal act against us in some ways. Okay. But on the other hand, exposure is our friend these days.
Hmm.
Exposing the power and the corruption that one man wields is, in that whole system is just, well, the Congress has got that bill out. I don't know if you know, about trying to get rid of Gary and
Yeah.
create a committee instead of one man having so much power. So in a lot of ways, Hinman was a blessing to us all. And it's
Yeah.
weird how I haven't heard anybody say that. And I'm thinking, well, you understand that he just exposed what a mess the whole thing is and how our government essentially is run that way now. Like, I don't want to get too political, but the family in power right now like seem to be able to do whatever they please. And it almost seems odd to me that they haven't done anything for the people in a very long time.
Mhm.
And nobody seems to care at the top. Uh, I know that's probably happened my whole life, but it just seems more obvious than ever.
Mhm.
And I have to disagree with slightly your statement about the SEC maybe not being as quite as corrupt as I don't. I don't honestly think in this day and age that we really need an SEC. Of course we do, but it should be about 10 people. It doesn't need to be 20,000 people. There's a staff of 20,000 members there.
Yeah.
And
The word that keeps coming back to me is overreach. Uh,
yes,
and
yeah,
it's just too many people I guess, if you don't need that many people and they're bored, they're going to just go crazy and try and control everything and all the little things that they don't need to be doing.
that's
Um,
right. Yeah.
they're kind of doing it out of boredom almost.
And you and I would agree on this. Where's the branch of the SEC that promotes industry and future prosperity for the people of this country and using new technology? Where's that branch?
Yeah.
Why aren't they promoting these products? As you know, well, everybody watching this, I'm sure, knows that this country is pushing technology off its shores. Once again, you know, I tell people this all the time. And we push the US pushed the Forex market overseas to London. Okay. You can't, the commodities markets all were pushed overseas. They had rights to them. They wanted them here. Everybody, the people wanted them here and they pushed them overseas. So this has occurred over and over and over to the point now where I'm starting to think, and I don't want to get too conspiratorial here on the show, but I think London's involved with the whole thing. The
It
city of
starts from
London,
London.
yeah. And it's a joint effort to some degree that, like, I did a show on it not long ago that basically said, well, they're all in it together. Clearly, it's where all the families are from. So they're throwing a bone to the UK a bit, just pushing it off the shores, and then it just brings in other players, Hong Kong, Singapore, and everybody else.
Well, I do find it interesting just on the topic of timing. Like just by looking at the timing of things, it's interesting because the UK have basically got this bill to the absolute last stage before it goes to the king to sign off. And that's a foregone conclusion that he just signs it. Because every time anything came to the queen, she signed it because she entrusts her government. So he entrusts the government. It's on the last stage. It would actually define and start to regulate, what do they call it? Digital settlement assets. That's literally the wording that's used. And so,
Civilized.
yeah, exactly. And so, even though you could make the argument to say that the SEC court case and this bill in the UK are completely different things, it's also interesting how they overlap and the timing of these things coming to their conclusions. I don't think that's a mistake.
It is. Yeah. It's
Um,
interesting days we live in, boy. I cannot believe every morning I wake, I, I, I try not to watch too much YouTube, but it's almost
yeah.
impossible these days. There's so much happening, and there's so much happening in the banking world,
Right.
and the players, the music is slowing down, and the people are starting to look and grab chairs.
Mm.
And it's pretty obvious that, something's happening. So
So I think
it's really,
I think we generally, again, I don't want to speak for you, and I'd like your thoughts on it, but we generally agree in this space that Ripple's going to come out of this with on the positive side, whether that's a settlement or a win. I think a win's less likely, but in my opinion,
no, I totally agree. Yeah.
yeah.
I,
How do you
I,
see? Yeah, carry on.
I read too many documents to say otherwise. And I've talked to too many bankers who are like, oh yeah, we know what that is. Now, where a year ago, they had no idea what I was talking about. So, yeah.
I've always been kind of interested in the concept of a utility pump versus the speculation pump. And the only reason that I think there's a difference between the two is because one requires regulation, the other one doesn't require regulation. But regulations take time. And so you can have court case resolution, in my opinion, and have speculation pump. You could even have a whole bull run just on the speculation without regulation. But when regulation comes in, that's a different ball game. I'd be interested to know what you kind of think the price could be pushing up to in speculation and what that lag between speculation and utility might be.
I would have addressed the first part of that first. That's one of my favorite parts about XRP is you cannot possibly Bitcoin, but not even Bitcoin. Can you point out another coin that has more sound, if you will, fundamentals? You look at their staff, I mean, and their staff is growing. You look at their written contracts. I think it's 40 countries in the world now. I don't know if you saw just the other day, Colombia is going to run their CBDC on it. And and a lot of people don't understand how big the economy of Colombia is. It's massive. When you go there, I've been there a couple times, and it's pretty. It's an amazing country. It's not just it's just some little country. It's a real deal. So their fundamentals of the XRP are just incredible. But getting back to the latter half of the question, it what scares me most about industry and the fundamentals in the banking community and use case is they love control. And would frighten me a bit that somebody's coming along like BlackRock, who has $10 trillion in assets under roof, and they're going to have an ETF. Of course, it's Bitcoin at this point. It's not an XRP ETF, thank God, in my opinion. But that can create control on the fundamental level. However, it can also bring in so much volume, institutional money that is going to, it can't help but go up because they're looking for something. And I know they've been looking for something for 10 years to invest in. And I'm talking about retirement funds and pensions, and they're just not getting return on their money. And this little animal comes along, if you will. So corporate speculation, if I can say, use that term, could be massive in its broad growth, allowed growth, slow growth. The public, FOMOing their way in and complete speculation. Let's say they don't shut off all the avenues to purchase it, which is a bit of an issue here in this nation. Could be waves in which they would love to control, and they do. They love to control the public in that wave. And I just want to address that real quick. There's a wave coming of great prosperity in crypto. But I am the guy who believes that it's going to get a little bit worse. I don't mean dollar numbers necessarily. I just mean it's going to get, we're not bottom yet. And I don't mean bottom in the low number. I mean just the mess that's in before it climbs itself out and becomes an institutional product, if you will.
Yeah.
We're not out of that yet. So when that all occurs, I believe it's lining up perfect for the Bitcoin happening. I think they're going to turn the money printer on coincidentally somewhere right around the same time. When you start adding all of that up, and this is what I really want to get into the show about today, but this is better that we have a chat. I like them better, but I'm a chart guy. I was a Forex trader for over a decade. So I see in particular XRP's chart. Its technical analysis is incredible right now. No matter what the court says.
Yeah.
This thing is setting up for a long move that it didn't get over the last the last big bull run. It just didn't get it. And it's been knocked down and suppressed. And you and I know the fundamentals. Everybody watching the show knows its use case value for the future is incredible. And the technical analysis can't be stopped because you're talking about bots and you're talking about things that see opportunity that says, well, I don't care what they are. Who runs the company? You've got to buy this one because it's about to pop. And as soon as the bots jump on it, technically, it just goes crazy. I think I answered the question.
Yeah, you did it in a reasonable way.
I didn't give you a number.
No, you didn't, but that's fine. I just think,
you want the number?
Only if you have a number to give.
So, sorry to interrupt. The number on the next real kind of good move for XRP is, I think I mentioned this to you a week or two ago. It's somewhere around on my charts, okay, because I deal in thirds. It's somewhere right around 30 times your money, 30 to 35 times your money from where it's at right now.
Okay.
So that brings you to $15 roughly US.
Yeah. So, that would conform to speculation, like my Fibonacci biologically based speculation calculation as well, like between kind of $10 and $13. 14 seems reasonable as well.
It
Um,
does, yeah.
and a lot of I know fractals aren't really a thing that many serious people use, but they all fit in. The Fibonacci's fit in. Whatever you've used to calculate that fits. They all seem to converge around that area.
Yeah.
What's going to be really interesting to watch is for that to happen, and then the delay between the companies using it, the banks using it for its utility, and a new price being established. What's the delay between those two? Are we looking at the speculation thing and then utility just continues it on up, or does it come back down to return for more accumulation and then we wait for regulation and utility? It's kind of the big mystery.
Yeah. It is a bit of a mystery, and unless you kind of understand markets and the way they move, it really depends a lot on how many people lives will be changed at we'll use the $13 mark.
Mhm.
The the people who become more money than they expected to ever have in their lifetime, people, if $13 does that for them, it will significantly slow down the price
Yeah.
because people are like, I'm out. I bought the farm, I bought the ranch, I bought I bought a company that I've always wanted or a business opportunity, and they will sell, and that will, reduce the bags, obviously.
Yeah.
Because smart money will know that equation, and the big money will say, okay, that it's had its big move. If you've noticed on charts, the crypto just skyrockets and goes parabolic for periods of time. And when it stops, the big players and the bots and whatnot, and the traders know, okay, that's that's done. We're done with that.
Yeah.
That's
It
yeah,
just gets really tough because there's so many people who understand in this community the utility of the assets afterwards, being able to collateralize loans on them,
yeah.
an interest yield, you know, use them properly. But
Mm,
you almost miss out on the gains of a speculation pump because we're just holding on for an even higher price.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
difficult.
It is, and I think that's really what I'm going to. First of all, I'd like to compliment the XRP Army if I can. I went to that show in Vegas, and I didn't talk to one person that I was concerned about in this next bull market. People know what they're doing now. People have learned from shows like yours and many others that, hey, do not sell your whole bag, but you need to sell some of your bag at $13 or 10 or whatever your number is, 9, 8, whatever your number is. But this is an asset that, like you keep talking about, it's an institutional asset. This is going to be here. If they adopt it to the level that you and I assume that they will, this is something that they're going to build economic systems on top of for decades to come, you know,
Yeah.
until a better technology comes along anyway. And we know once they get a hold of a technology, you look at SPIF, that thing is so old, it's ridiculous. And they like steady. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's, yeah,
Well, I appreciate every second of time I got with you today. I know we're going to do it again. Uh, I don't know.
yeah,
We should schedule these in once every couple of months or something. Um,
yeah, I'd love that.
it's been a pleasure. I
Yeah,
truly wish you all the best with the channel, even though I
thank you.
know what we hold in the background anyway, kind of just makes the channels dwarf in comparison to what's possible with all this money that we might have in the future. So
It
thank
does,
you.
but it's so much fun, guys. You
Yeah,
guys are really, and you're such a young man, but I'm an older guy, and so I have a place to share my stories and my wisdom with, and it's so much fun. I'm really enjoying this entire network that
Yeah.
we've all built together. And there's so many great shows, and I don't know. I just feel privileged to be a part of this community, and I learned so much from everybody that I listen to, and it's been so much fun. You guys have made an old man happy, if you will, just being able to share a bit with each other and meeting people in person
Yeah.
is it's so special. We need to do more of that.
Yeah.
But
And I think we will when more of us have the means to be able to connect with people all around the world physically. I think it becomes a real solidifying thing in the community, especially in these circles, these specific communities. Not talking about XRP, talking about your audience. Having an annual dinner where everyone, wherever they are, can come to that.
yes,
I, I think these things are going to come to fruition. But thank you for your contributions. We love having you in the community. You offer,
yeah.
you offer something that I think is completely unique to you and no one else does. So keep doing that. And yeah,
Well, thanks.
we'll talk again soon.
I'd like that very much. I thought the show went really well, and it's not often that two people can sit down and talk and have such a common duality, and
Yeah.
it was good.